Transparency is getting a lot of attention in business these days. Some companies do their best to embody transparency while others give it lip service because it's a buzzword and they want to look like they're progressive or woke. In this video, we'll take a look at how leading with transparency is superior for everyone, rather than just sticking with old standbys like leveraging fear and control. I mean, sure, you could make a case that fear and control have worked for several thousand years, but as I look at the world around us, I'm not really convinced it's worked so well. So let's start by taking a look at what drives some leaders to try to control everything. Right after, we take a slow, deep breath. I ask every CEO I work with whether they actually like the stress and tension of trying to control their teams, or of finding ways to bring about enough fear in their employees in hope that their teams will perform better. Oddly enough, not one of them has turned to me and said, "Yo, bud, that's what I wake up for in the morning." It's just a tense, miserable way to manage people, and certainly not inspirational. Yet so many of us have been a part of these types of teams, and some of us have even led our teams this way. But mostly because we didn't know what else to do. This is how we learned to get things done growing up, and that got reinforced over the years. But there are better ways of leading that not only inspire teams, but also feel better to us. People feel better when leaders are truly transparent, and increasing job employee satisfaction is good for the bottom line. So let's take a look at what it's like to free ourselves from using fear and control to being a high-functioning, transparent leader. So what are some downsides to leading with fear and control? Well, when we attempt to instill fear in employees with the hope of getting them to perform better, we undermine ourselves and our teams. And when people feel fear, a lot of their physical, mental, and emotional time and energy goes into trying to survive the whole experience. This diminishes quality, productive work, and the added stress increases the likelihood that mistakes will be made. When employees experience work-related fear, that also raises the odds of stress claims further down the road, and none of these things are good for the company. I do want to note that if you do attempt to leverage fear in this way, it's worth exploring what's driving that style of leadership. Most often, it's an attempt to relieve the pressure that we're feeling. And with every leader I ever coached, we found that underneath that feeling of pressure is fear. When we lead, driven by a fear that we may not even realize is driving us, we're unlikely to perform optimally ourselves, because just like our employees, our own performance is impaired and compromised when we're experiencing fear. So it's wise for us to choose to give up engaging in that type of leadership. So what's so special about transparency in this type of leadership context? Transparent leaders embody honesty and openness in our work environments. We're upfront with what's going on in the organization. We'll share what's going on in the company, as able, of course, honoring appropriate needs for confidentiality. And that sharing will include what we're doing, why we're doing it, and what we're intending to achieve. This type of open communication builds trust in the organization. When people feel like they're in the loop, they tend to feel a greater sense of ownership in their work. This inspires them, and it gives them more pride in their work. They perform better. They're more collaborative with other team members. A long-term benefit of transparency is that it results in a higher quality of collaboration. And this brings about faster and more effective solutions to challenges that arise in our businesses. So this works very well for all involved. Better leadership leads to better communication, better morale, better solutions, better teamwork, better performance, better production, a better bottom line. And this is all without using fear to motivate anyone. Leading transparently requires us to communicate openly and authentically about what's going on in the organization. When we invite the team to learn about what's driving our choices and actions, the benefit is that they feel a greater sense of inclusivity. Releasing the need to use fear and control a perpetually strained effort to get our teams to do what we want them to do, our team members can flow better. Fear blocks flow. Control is at cross purposes with flow. And when there's a lack of flow, we're all less effective and less productive. Free of fear-based leadership, we can establish a culture where people feel safe enough to question our choices and offer perspectives we may not have seen that can make or break a project. It allows for higher functioning feedback loops that can up-level the quality of our products and our services. It's also imperative for us to be able to truly listen to and learn from criticism offered, which helps team members feel heard and valued. We can express empathy for what they're going through. We'll all allow ourselves to be vulnerable in our communication, which helps team members feel more connected. And we can fully own our missteps, which models integrity for the organization. So, what does it take to lead with transparency? To successfully do this, we need a certain level of healthy self-confidence, so that when we do receive negative feedback, we can really listen, not self-defend or make team members wrong, not duck or run for cover in service of protecting our fragile egos. To powerfully bring transparency into our leadership, we need to raise our self-awareness around whether or not using fear to motivate our performance in any way is taking place. If we receive feedback, and if we're aware enough to notice that we're starting to feel defensive, we can take a moment to stop, to deal with those self-protective feelings so that we can remain in a receptive, listening mode. This helps team members feel respected and that it's safe for them to share. And a greater sense of trust is established throughout the company. Self-awareness will also help us to see if we've acted out of alignment with our company's values. If we have, a transparent leader would proactively own the error and do our utmost to clean up any mess we've made with those we've impacted. We wouldn't wait until we're in fear of being outed. So wrapping this up, leadership is an ever-evolving field, and transparency is foundational to a higher standard of conscious leadership. And why wouldn't every one of us embrace transparency? Our teams will feel and function better. We'll all have lower stress, we'll have a greater sense of connection with employees, and our organizations will better flourish and flow. Leading masterfully with transparency is well within your grasp. And while it does take both practice and a healthy dose of courage, the rewards are well worth the effort required to make this shift. If you'd like some support in freeing yourself from the stress of leading from fear and control and finding the peace of leading transparently, you can always give me a call. There's a lot more content on the evolvingceo.com website, as well as info on how we can connect. I'll leave the link down below so you can check it out. Until then, lead wisely.